when did you start making music?
About a year ago. That's it.
Really?
When I started that when I decided that I'm gonna be a musician, that's the first time I actually made music.
Oh my gosh, that's
Well,
incredible.
technically I did make music, like not in like a pop composition kind of way, but I used to play the cello,
Nice.
and I started playing music kind of classically mainly. So if that counts, then
No,
probably a long
absolutely it
time ago
counts.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
So I started playing the cello when I was like 8 years old.
Wow.
It was good fun, but I kind of along the way I realized that the classical route isn't really my thing. I still love having said that. I still love classical music, but I probably would never want to be a classical musician.
Who are your like inspirations when you were like starting to create music in the pop aspect then?
I always go on about this, but I'm a huge fan of Joji, and one of the reasons why is because his music was the reason why I decided that I was gonna make music and wanted to become a musician. So, um, yeah, it's just like the complete rawness, and I think like how you described my music as well, which kind of makes me really happy, is that like his personality really portrays through his music as well. And I think that's a trait that I'd love to kind of convey through my music as well as a musician. So I think it's a trait that I've always looked up to in his music. So Joji, I'm a big fan. And I love like people like Tom Odell, like kind of a mix of kind of pop music and kind of mellow ballads and a bit of pop and a bit of classical.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, love Glass Animals. It's just like all over the place. I'm sure with everybody else. But I like to kind of pull inspiration from all sorts of different places,
Nice. That's
not
cool.
just music, but also like with art and
Different forms of
film.
art. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember seeing that you made an EP of covers, like These Are Not My Songs. And I was listening to it the other day and I realized, oh my gosh, she covered Joji. And when I saw that you covered it, I was like, this is so sick. Like, I love this arrangement as well. You're really good
Yeah,
at
I just had
arranging
to.
songs,
Thank you.
you
I
know?
mean, I just had to as a fan. You just have to. Like I did with Sunday,
Right,
with you guys. Like I
which is
just
how I
have
found
to.
you.
Yeah, yeah. I just have to, cover it. It's like the best. It's like the most I can do as a fan. Just as a tribute. Um, but yeah, just to show some appreciation. Love
Yeah.
Joji.
Well, we were I felt very honored to have seen that. So like just quick backstory for everybody that is tuning
Mm.
in. I discovered Suli because she tagged us, office hours that is, in a post of her covering Sunday, and she arranged it very, very beautifully, just with piano and her singing. And I was in Brazil at the time when I
Oh,
got that
nice.
notification. Yeah, I wasn't even like on my phone a lot, but I checked my phone and I saw it and I was like, dude, this is crazy. And I sent it to everybody in the group chat, the band. And I was like, yo, we have to like blast this on social media because this is so good. And I told all my family members to share it, to repost it. I told my friends to like
Oh.
comment on it, like, check this out. This is so crazy.
Oh, baby, I'll be the sunlight through your window. I'll have you feeling like the dawn. Oh, baby, I'll take my breakfast here in bed. I wanna see you on a Sunday. I'll be the morning that you want.
And I followed you since then, and I've seen the growth. Like, you skyrocket. I think when I found you, you had like a couple thousand followers. Now you're at like 30,000. Like, your audience and your fan base is increasing, and like the music that you create continues to it. You stay true to the sound that you're trying to exert, but you're still also making it fun. And I feel like the quality and the songwriting is improving. which is amazing because that's what we all strive for, that growth while still having fun, you know?
Mm. Yeah,
So
I don't even think it was like a couple of thousand. I think it was only just like at around like a few hundreds at the time. Um, but yeah, I try to kind of stay true, but at the same time, kind of move forward and um, improve my sound and tweak play in places that needs tweaking,
mhm.
and such.
Do you have someone that you work with that you send the music to kind of like polish up a little bit?
No, I just do it all by myself. It's something that I have been doing out of necessity rather than choice, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like for me, producing is the most fun part. Producing and writing songs, the songwriting part is the most fun part for me. And the rest is like the engineering parts, like mixing and mastering. Those parts are things that kind of require a bit more patience, with the personality that I have,
Yeah.
in all honesty. But I think it's a good skill set to have, nonetheless, even if I do kind of hand those process over to other people in the future.
Mhm.
At the moment, I'm kind of completely independent. And I'm still able to do these things all by myself with these skills under my belt. So I think it's good to be hands
Well
on.
diverse, well diverse.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
something that
Yeah.
I have been told several times. Like people always like they emphasize the importance of like if you're gonna go record music with someone, like it's important that you understand like the tech part of it, you know, like the mixing, the nitty gritty stuff also. So that way, like you know what you're even trying to explain of what you want
Mm.
out of the product and out of the art. So it's good to have that like knowledge in all areas. And it is tedious, like don't get me wrong, I love mixing, but sometimes I'm like this gets a little old, you know.
And also,
uh
like, when you have to bounce the same thing, like, over and over again with, like, the
the
most minimal, like, tweaks,
tweaks, yeah.
it's just, like, it feels so redundant, but, like, you have to do it for the sake of art, I guess. But, yeah, it can get quite tedious at times, for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. I know that you're very inspired by Joji, but who else out there would you love to collaborate with? Whether I know you recently collaborated with a producer from London, I believe. Like he remixed one of your songs,
Oh, yes,
which was
yes, Will
really
Hatton.
tight. Yeah. Who else out there have you maybe not connected with currently, but would like to collaborate with in the future?
Um, ooh. Ooh, I don't know, actually. I mean, like, are we talking about like celebrity level people, or like people that I'm like currently connected
It
with,
could
and
be
like,
it could go either way. Who do
oh, well,
you
Sam
want?
Smith, because like,
Sam
oh
Smith?
my gosh, his
Nice.
voice is like, I mean, like, I who wouldn't, like, as a musician, who wouldn't want to
Right,
sing,
yeah.
as somebody who sings, who wouldn't want to sing with Sam Smith? Because like, and like his butter voice, like I just like, I can go on and on about how beautiful Sam Smith's voice is, and I'm sure anybody can.
Yeah, he's
um
incredible.
but like, I have a huge uh like kind of fantasy about like duets. I have this thing about duets, and I love duets, and I love, how in that songs on, like, in High School Musicals, where they sing in like harmonies and two, like,
Yeah.
those were the moments that are like my harmony dreams, my duet dreams. And I love like singing in duets. And frankly, duets are not something that I've like been able to have a lot of experience with. So I'd love to do like collaborations with, Sam Smith one day, as like a little duet thing.
That
But I
would be
love I
awesome.
love harmonies, like harmonies. I live for harmonies. Like vocal harmonies that are like, they're
Yeah,
my
we and that's
music
that's a
dreams.
constant in your music too, because when I listen to it, like I hear like the backing vocals, like those harmonies like come in the mix, and it's like
That's the thing. I have no other choice but to duet with myself, because I don't really have I don't really have any opportunities at bay at the moment with these things. So I just have no other choice but to harmonize with myself, which is
hey,
fun, and
sometimes
it's
that's
on its own right.
Right, exactly. Who would you love to have a conversation with? Maybe not collaborate with, but just pick their brain.
It's probably I probably wouldn't want to talk about music, but I'd love to talk to like people like Harry Styles about his like fashion statements because
Yeah.
he's been doing some really funky stuff with the stuff he wears. I love it. I love it. I don't know, like it's hard to put words into how I feel about it,
Yeah.
but in a good way. Um, and I think like I'd love to talk about I think the biggest way to get the best way to get inspiration from musicians and creative and the likes is to actually just talk about stuff that isn't directly music related, even if they're in the music industry. So I'd love to
Yeah.
like talk about fashion and culture and kind of
Experience.
yeah, political kind of statements through different creative methods with people who are doing it in action, like Harry Styles with his like dress, gown, suits. It's something. I love it. I love it.
Sweet.
I was struck by his recent Vogue photo shoots. I saw like a series of shoots that he did with Vogue, and
Yeah.
it was something. It was like, whoa,
Yeah,
that's a
he's
dress.
really, and you know, I was looking at like some of those pictures too, and I was really like looking into his face, like the qualities that someone has, like with their like, you know, the jawline, like the eyes, the nose, everything. And for whatever reason, I could be crazy, but I really felt like I saw like David Bowie. And like
Oh
David Bowie
yeah,
was really
yeah.
doing the exact same thing. And so I'm like, history is kind of repeating itself, but not in, like people. There are always going to be people that really have that platform to make those kind of statements, which is good.
Mm.
And I'm glad that we're able to.
Which is what we all need. Yeah,
Right.
the more we have, the better it is for us to have these people
Hmm.
making statements in creative ways, basically.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it doesn't happen often. But I feel like it's kind of happening with him, with Harry Styles. I love it. I love it.
One other thing that I wanted to bring up is some of the lyrical content of the song, like of your music. I feel like goes into like, you know, being alone, dealing with like anxiety. Elaborate a little bit about that and like how music has been like maybe a coping mechanism or helped you throughout like figuring out yourself a little bit more in regards to like mental health also and like just growth period.
Yeah. I think starting since having started to write music, which was a year ago, I think I've like learned more about myself than I ever did in the span of my entire life, basically, because songwriting has kind of reckoned me to deal with all these compartments in my brain that I never kind of looked into, and call it I covered it up with other things, or I just kind of avoided it altogether. It just kind of forced me to reckon with these things, and it kind of led to a lot of self-discovery and lessons to kind of live with myself a little bit better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Having said that, I do talk, I do talk about, being depressed and feeling sad and lonely a lot of times in my songs. I have never actually, frankly, been like diagnosed clinically with depression or anything like that. So I almost sometimes feel like I'm not qualified enough to talk about these kind of mental illnesses because I don't know if I am like clinically depressed or not.
Yeah.
But one thing I do know for sure is that I do feel these feelings, and it's I'm telling the truth. I'm singing these words from the bottom of my heart, and the best I can do is that I can just kind of, talk with people who are feeling the same way. I think many times what we see in the media and like, big public figures talk about, their depression and their kind of mental unwellness. And it's like, we see a lot of like the extreme side of things. But I think what doesn't get talked too often is like the mild cases, like things like loneliness that we feel like on a daily, like everyday basis.
Mm-hmm.
Like these things I don't feel like get talked often enough. although like everybody suffers from it. And I think if anything, that's what I try to shed light on through my music, you know, everyday emotions and feelings that we all go through, um, without it having to be like a clinical thing or like a big, massive, like mental illness of any sort. But it can get quite intense sometimes. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are other people out there who are feeling similar.
Is there anything else aside from music that kind of helps you get out of those like headspaces? Or is music like the only outlet that you utilize to kind of get those emotions
Mm.
out of your system?
You know, I always say that making music and writing songs is kind of my coping mechanism for all these like kind of toxic emotions. I say that, but sometimes I don't even want to make music. I
Yeah.
feel so shit to a point that I don't want to make music. I don't feel like making music. At those times, like really, I just have to, you know, it's just like it's kind of like a case by case thing, you know, on days when music doesn't work, making music doesn't work. If I literally can't make music because I'm in this headspace, probably eating. I usually eat, but like that's not healthy because you don't nobody ever binges on cabbage or like leek or carrots. We always binge on stuff that is toxic for you. So probably, yeah, food. Yes, I turn to food a lot, but it's probably not the healthiest coping mechanism. I love going out for walks. I love listening to music
Right.
rather than making music. Um, Watching movies. I for some reason recently I've been going on Pinterest a lot, and I
Okay.
love Pinterest. I know like Pinterest gets a lot of bad rep, and it's like, oh, it's for like hippies or like it's for like the Pinterest gals or whatever. But you know, Pinterest is actually really great place to find art that you can resonate with, um, and lots of beautiful photographies and um, snippets of movies and gifs and such.
Mhm.
I love Pinterest. Pinterest
I
is
think it's
awesome.
a good source of inspiration for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and a place to find some comfort as well, like away from all these like noise that's going on like places like Twitter and
Yeah.
less so on Instagram, but like on social media in general. I feel like Pinterest is a more kind of to the self kind of place.
Right.
I love it.
My hope is that, anybody that listens and tunes in can be empowered or encouraged by it to be reminded that they're not the only people that face those things.